There's a theory going around that Emu could be a parrot. I did not make this theory, but I do find it interesting. It does kill a lot of my own theories, which is completely fine. But what is so curious about this is that it makes more sense than it doesn't, and I'll always keep the door open on this as a possibility. Now, with that being said, we're going to go over two theories of mine to add to the pile of this big theory that's building online, just based on some things I've noticed as the story has gone on. So, spoilers for Elbath ahead. However, parrots can have ringed eyes, right? Eyes similar to Emu's eyes. This is interesting because the only other character with these types of eyes are Mihawk and Emu themselves. Dracula Mihawk has the epithet of Hawkeye's Mihawk. Therefore, presumably, the two characters who have these types of eyes are bird and bird themed, which is kind of curious. And then the other bird themed character, Don Quixote do Flamingo, hides his eyes, which is also quite curious, and we never get to see them. And to add to this, what's also quite curious is that one, in art requests, Doflamingo has only shown genuine kindness to birds. He gives a baby bird a bandage, and he lets a flamingo wear his sunglasses. Also, Dracula Mihawk lives on an island full of human drills, whom copy the actions of humans who once lived on the island, much like how a parrot copies people's voices. So I find that very interesting. Very, very interesting. But to continue. Okay, so moving on from that, the curious thing about Emu using his or their devil fruit is that they can grow bird wings. This doesn't make sense because, as we've discussed on the channel before, I do believe that the fruit that Emu possibly has is some sort of mythical bat fruit. Said bat fruit could still be a weird humanoid with bat wings, which would make sense because anytime you see Emu with a human hand, that could just be them using partial transformation, of which we've seen before with characters like Chopper. So, keeping that in mind, what if the wings that Emu spawns when they fly are the wings they usually have as a parrot? Because the weird discrepancy between Emu's wings and the wings that we see of the entity in the mirror is that the entity in the mirror has bat wings. But if you are going to fly, you would normally just use the wings you are accustomed to using as a bird. And we see this type of thing going on too in Skypiea, which makes a lot of these weird NL connections a bit more believable, because in Skypiea we have a Delphic user by the name of Pierre. Pierre is a bird that ate the horse fruit, and by eating the horse fruit, its hybrid transformation is that of a Pegasus, in which it uses its real bird wings in order to fly with a horse body. So the same thing could be happening here. Even though the fruit does allow the user to grow wings, Emu is relying on their natural wings to fly. But about the bat wings in general, there's no actual evidence to show that this entity has the power of flight, which is interesting because when Emu uses Dami Reversi on other people, they grow bat wings, as well as buildings and trees do, right? They all grow bat wings, but they all seem to be costume bat wings. They don't seem to be functional because nobody who has been possessed by Dami Reversi actually flies. The only person that we see do something akin to flight is Gunko. But here's the kicker. Gunko is directly being possessed by Emu. Emu's projection is within Gunko. So that nullifies the idea that the fruit itself is assisting Gunko in being able to fly. Maybe because of the nature of a bird presumably eating the fruit, the person or animal in question just gifts the one possessed all of their abilities, including the ability to fly and being a bird. So maybe that's a weird caveat around the power system. I'm not sure. But working with this whole possession angle is even more interesting that when someone is directly possessed by Emu, they gain Emu's eyes and parrot what they say. So I'm wondering, could Emu actually be a parrot? Because the smoking gun for me is that if the being the Emu becomes is the being portrayed in the mirror that we see in Elbaf, it's odd that they have bird wings while they give everyone else bat wings. That's the big kicker for me. That leads me to believe that there's another nature here that we just don't know about. Also, third thing that's a bit of a bonus, and I'm not sure how much I want to pour into this, but it's weird that Emu refers to themselves in the third person, kind of like a parrot repeating its own name. But then again, the only problem I have with this entire theory is that based on how Emu is introduced by Ivankov of all people, it makes one think that there is a family that Emu belongs to, seeing as how they are called Nerona Emu. But that doesn't necessarily mean both are the same person. This parrot could just be taking the place of Nerona Emu. Who's to say? That's why it's a bit of a contentious theory, because Emu themselves has so much lore behind them. But we'll have to wait and see. Once again, not 100% behind this whole parrot thing, but I'll leave the door open on it because it is a very interesting idea. However, with that being said, if you are enjoying the video so far, give me a like. And if you want to see more from me, click the subscribe button followed by that bell so you never miss a video. In addition to, if you could, hit the hype button because it really does help. And with that being said, give me your thoughts and tell your friends about Polypede Works.